So anyway, so I just did a video about weathering. I guess we could call it realistic movie weathering or realistic weathering. We're working on the WeTech gas blowback L85 just for the algorithm. Everything is airsoft, nothing's real steel, it's all replica. Anyways, as you can see, we got in here with the sand sponge, and like I said, like I taught last time, you just, we're just scooting along, and it will only be the high points that actually get scuffed up, if you want to call it that. The main thing is that we're not scratching, we're not coming across the rifle on flat moments or flat bits of the replica rifle, and we're actually getting in there and just that's just going to be what I call a scratch job. So it's coming along. It is a long process. However, what I wanted to show was actually the handguards, because obviously we've got nothing metallic underneath the handguards and the pistol grip. So I just had a few people ask how to do this. Yes, of course you can come in, the same thing again, and scuff along. It's only going to be the high points that are going to be touched, yeah? Actually, fun fact, after I did the video and showed my girlfriend, I actually said, taking the information that I've given in the last video, you try do it, and she actually did that. So you can see it definitely does work, just hitting those high points. However, I'll get on with it. So the plastic or any kind of furniture. So this is what I use. This is the Citadel. This is, it's basically a wash, and you can find it on Amazon. I've gone for the Agrax Earthshade. It's all that Middle-earth sort of wordage, isn't it? So I've got some basically antibacterial wipes. Yeah, try to stay away from alcohol wipes and things like this. As you can see, look, this side of the front sight post has not been hit, so I'll get into that. However, we did this on the last video. I'm going to show you how to weather plastic parts or polymer parts, right? It's not going to be here again, it's going to just be in all of the recesses, and it's really just go for it. Should be wearing gloves for this because it does stain a little bit. So there we go. Look, it's as easy as this. Look, I'm getting in those grates. Look, as you can see, I'm just getting in there. Real messy, yeah. Yep, I want to go inside here. Don't worry about making a mess, isn't that the point of it? Yep. So I'm going in here, and if you think about it, this was in Iraq, Afghanistan, zombie apocalypse, whatever you want to think about. Yep. It's only going to accumulate dirt, debris, oil, shit inside of those points, yeah? Now this looks absolutely terrible right now. Of course it does, yeah? Gonna get in all those grates, all those bits, yeah? Looks absolutely terrible. Now before it dries, I'm gonna get in all there. Yep, we're just using it real messily. That word, messily? I think, yeah, we'll go with it, messily. So we're just using it this way, especially in these points. You get mud and crud down inside of there. It's not going to be here, is it? It's going to look ridiculous, yeah? So I take just a basic antibacterial wash. I don't think there's much bleach in it. It doesn't have a strong smell to it. And we're just going to, again, same thing, just like I did on the last video with the sanding sponge. Same thing. I'm just going to come off like so. We're going to sort of blot, just dab. Makes sense? Now what's going to happen here is, you can already see it happening. It's only remained in the recesses. We'll try a bit of dry here. And it's just trial and error. And the great thing with this stuff, if you use some paint thinner, it'll come straight off. So, as Bob Ross says, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. So, yeah, making sure, again, just the same technique. We're not getting into those recesses. I'm not pushing. I'm sort of got what I'll call a flat sponge, if that makes sense. I'm acting like, you know, this was a real rifle. You know, a flight lieutenant has told me, clean that fucking rifle up, and I've got a minute to do it. You're not going to be able to take it apart, but I just want to get in here. Yeah. Now you can already see, I've been doing it in a flat way. You can already see, look, if you come in close back, you can see down this recess, we've got a dark line. Does that make sense? Right down in there, we've got a dark recess. And the longer it's left, the more it will happen, yeah? If you want a little bit more, that's absolutely fine. We can go just a little bit more, and we're gonna just run it along that line. Does that make sense? Run it along that line. Now, when I actually wipe this off, yeah, it's only going to remain, so just be gentle with this bit because you don't want it to soak up inside of there. It's only going to remain inside of that recess. Now I know it looks awful, I'm trying to keep the video as short as possible, yeah? And if you get to this point here, you can actually see, look, it's fallen into those recesses. Try and center that for me, please. Yeah, so it just goes into the recesses, and only the recesses, yeah? That's where the mud and the crud is gonna get, especially I think over this top angle here. Oh yeah, definitely. You see that? See, that's gotten just in there. I'll get in heavier with this. The great thing is, same technique as before, using the sand sponge. If I actually get in, look, if we see this bit, this doesn't look very realistic here, does it? It looks like it's been painted. You can actually get in there and actually start removing any kind of flat edge in there. Does that make sense? Because you're not going to have dirt on those points, because my thumb is always going to be riding along that point. Yeah, like so. Yep, same thing again. Like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I think you get what I'm getting at here, right? You want to leave it inside of those moments, you can call them moments, inside of those grates, inside of the gaps. So look, for me, I've taken a little bit too much off there, but we've got a bit here, we've got a bit all along here. Does that make sense? That looks realistic. However, these bits, that doesn't look too good, does it? That's why I take my anti-back remover, and that's just gonna, the chemicals in it are just gonna lift that wash. The great thing about wash is as soon as it gets wet, it starts to be removed. Yeah, any flat edging. So that doesn't look good, does it? That looks completely purposely. Don't you see how that lifted there? How that lifted. Any sort of flat edges, we're going to make sure here. Yeah, I don't want to get in here too much because I think that looks good. Yeah, the rule is this, right? If it's got weathering, if you lie something flat across it and there's a gap, that's where the dirt is going to happen. Yeah, does that make sense? If I lay this across and I'm sanding it, the only parts that are going to be weathered is that high point. Does that make sense? If I do this, the only parts that are going to be hit with weathering is this top edge and this edge. So if I get across this, you'll see the dirt and the crud that's removed from that point, because that's going to have a lot of traffic. It's a high traffic spot. Does that make sense? Of course, I'm not sure how stiff this is actually. There we go. We'll lift this up because we've got some stuff. See that line? That just doesn't look organic at all, does it? So yeah, that's what's great about these Citadel washes. As soon as you introduce any kind of elbow grease to them, they actually lift up. Now, it's got to be subtle. You want it to be as subtle as possible. Right. Now, if you can see here, got that closed. If it'll let me, there we go. I don't know if you can see this, very subtle. It's still drying. You see a very subtle dark line. You see on the underside that we've got a very subtle dark line there. I'm going to get into all of this and make sure it's completely done. Does that make sense? Obviously, you can use this on. Let me just you just back up for a sec. I'm just going to flip it over. Look, check it out. So this one is one I did last night. Yeah, can you see how when it's dried, we've got a dark line inside of the recess, and that looks brilliant. That's exactly what it's supposed to be like. And I did the same here with the screw. Have I got any left here? I'll get a good bit in here. Yep. Look. So there's going to be a load of crap go down into that screw. Does that make sense? I'm going to leave that for a sec. While it's still wet, I can actually soak it up from the surface. I mean, I used a little bit too much there, but maybe it's getting in here. And when it dries, what we're going to have is a build-up of excess oil, or whatever you want to call it, deep down in there. I did go a little bit too heavy with that. Now I'll come back to that later, but as you can see, it's probably glistening in the light. You can see, if you get in here, you can see where that's formed. Yep, that's going to look absolutely brilliant in there once it's dried up. Yep, we'll use this. get in there, soak a little bit more up. Because you see, I actually can't physically get into that recess. That's the point. That's exactly where the weathering would be. Yep, can get a little bit of it up. We'll get a little bit more. So you're basically doing a wash. Anyone that's done any miniature painting will know exactly what I'm getting at here. But what have we got? Okay. But yeah, coming back into this recess here, so the plastic moulding, can you see that dark line in there? Now obviously, because we've got the torch on the camera on the phone, it'll look too much, but if she just comes back just a little bit above it, you can see how legit that actually looks. Last thing I should say, you can actually use it on the silvering parts if it looks like it's a little bit too much. Does that make sense? You can actually take the wash, I was gonna say use just a little bit. We can actually take it onto those, so the longer it's left the darker it gets, so we can actually use it if that's a little bit too silver. Now for this, it's a little bit more, you have to be a little bit careful because I want to wipe the wash away, but not into the silver moments. Does that make sense? Yep. When we get into that, what I find as well is blotting as well. It's going to add, I don't know if you can see that in the light, it's going to add more of a handled kind of vibe to it, even as it dries. So I can feel if I run my thumb, that's nice and clean. But where the wash is really cool. I don't know if you can hear that. So this feels very smooth, and it feels oily, it feels sticky, of course it does. But I'm saying it's got a texture to it as well. So that's it, and I would do here as well. Yeah, I would get in there with all the wash, any recesses. You don't obviously want the wash to just be across any plastic parts and just leave it there. You want to put it on heavily, you want to get it off quickly and let it just pool within the recesses, and that's gonna make it look most realistic. Let's actually check around this side what we were doing a second ago. And yeah, as you can see, we've got a black line forming there. Obviously this doesn't look great, but if you just handle it, over time that's going to come away. Same thing as I taught you last time, as we're just edging. Yeah, you're not getting into flat parts of the rifle. Same thing again. We're just going to edge, and what that will do is it will lift the wash only off those high points. I don't know if you can see here, it's got a little bit of wash shadow here. Yeah. So if I just speed this up for you, that's going to be a high traffic site, isn't it? As you can see, it's going away, and then it's only left within the recess. Does that make sense? I don't know if this is coming across in the camera, but I've got almost like a speckled effect happening here. The more I do that, getting like a realistic thing. The great thing is, as I'm rubbing across here, I can actually, I think it's flying out my hand. As I'm rubbing across here, I can actually feel this edge is being affected. Let that happen, because that means that's a natural edge of weathering. Does that make sense? There we go. Okay, so check this out. I'll do it really fast just for the video. So we're getting different sort of expressions, if I can call it that, of weathering here. If you come around just this side back, you can actually see where we've got the wash here, but then the wash has come away and it's restored that OD green there. We've actually got somewhat of a line there. You see how that works? But that's it. You know, I've really tried to speed it up for you guys. You can take hours with this. You can have fun with it.